I never thought the woman I welcomed into my home with open arms would be the one to tear my family apart. My name is Margaret. I'm 63 years old. And for the past 4 years, I've been living in a silence so heavy it feels like drowning. My son doesn't call anymore. He doesn't visit. On his birthday, I send him a card and sometimes he sends a short text back. Just 2 words. Thanks, Mom. That's all I get now. There was a time when he told me everything. When he was my best friend. When we'd sit in the kitchen on Sunday mornings, drinking coffee, talking about life, about his dreams, about the future. I raised him alone after his father passed away. It was just the two of us for so many years. I thought nothing could break that bond. But I was wrong. When he brought her home for the first time, I smiled. I hugged her. I told her she was beautiful. And I meant it. I wanted him to be happy. I wanted him to find love. I thought I was gaining a daughter. I didn't know I was losing a son. It started slowly. So slowly I didn't even notice at first. A missed phone call here. A canceled dinner there. Little comments that felt like pinpricks, but didn't draw blood. Not yet. Then one day, everything changed. She sat across from me at my own kitchen table, looked me in the eyes, and said the words I will never forget. Maybe it's time you give him some space. He doesn't need you the way he used to. I smiled. I nodded. I said I understood. But inside, something broke. Because I realized in that moment that she wasn't just asking me to step back. She was telling me I was no longer welcome in my own son's life. And the worst part? He let her. Let me take you back to the beginning. Back to when things were still good. Back to when my son was still mine. His name is David. He's 31 now. Tall, kind, with his father's eyes and my stubbornness. I used to joke that he got all the good parts from both of us. He was always a gentle boy. Never loud. Never cruel. He helped me around the house without being asked. He called me every evening when he moved out for college. Even when he got his first job in the city, he'd still come home every other weekend. He was my whole world. After my husband died, David was only 9 years old. It was just the two of us in that little house on Maple Street. I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. I was a cashier during the day and cleaned offices at night. I was tired all the time. My back ached. My hands were rough. But I never complained. Not in front of him. I wanted him to have a good life. I wanted him to go to college. I wanted him to have opportunities one never had. And he did. He worked hard. He got a scholarship. He became an accountant. I was so proud of him. I cried the day he graduated. Not because I was sad, but because I had kept my promise. I had given him a better life. When he started dating Emily, I was happy for him. He met her at work. She was smart, he said. Ambitious. Confident. He talked about her all the time. I could hear the excitement in his voice. I hadn't heard him sound like that in years. Mom, I think she's the one, he told me one night over the phone. I remember smiling so wide my cheeks hurt. Then I can't wait to meet her, I said. And I meant it. The first time I met Emily was on a Saturday afternoon. David brought her over for lunch. I spent the entire morning cooking. I made his favorite dishes. Pot roast. Mashed potatoes. Apple pie. I cleaned the house twice. I wanted everything to be perfect. When they walked through the door, I saw her for the first time. She was beautiful. Slim, with long dark hair and sharp green eyes. She wore a white blouse and jeans. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself I was just nervous. It's so nice to finally meet you, Mrs. Coleman, she said, shaking my hand. Please call me Margaret, I said, pulling her into a hug. She stiffened a little. I felt it. But I ignored it. We sat down for lunch. I asked her about her job, her family, her hobbies. She answered politely, but briefly. David filled in the silences. He talked enough for both of them. He seemed so happy. That's all that mattered to me. At one point, I reached over and squeezed David's hand. I'm so glad you found someone, I said softly. He squeezed back. Me too, Mom. Emily watched us. She didn't say anything, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. Something I couldn't quite name. After they left, I stood in the kitchen washing dishes, and I felt uneasy. I couldn't explain why. Everything had gone well. She had been polite. David had been happy. But something felt off. I shook it off. I told myself I was being silly. I told myself I was just protective. Every mother feels that way when their son brings someone new into his life. I didn't know then that my instincts were right. Over the next few months, I saw them more often. They'd come over for dinner once a week. Sometimes twice. Emily was always polite. Always smiling. But she never really talked to me. Not the way I had hoped. She'd answer my questions, but she never asked me anything. She never seemed curious about my life, my stories, my past. It felt like I was just a fixture in the background. Something to be tolerated. But David didn't seem to notice. He was so in love. He'd look at her like she hung the moon. And I was happy for him. I really was. Then one evening, about 6 months after they started dating, David called me. "Mom, I have something to tell you," he said. His voice was nervous but excited. "What is it, sweetheart?" "I'm going to propose to Emily." My heart stopped for just a second. Then I forced myself to smile, even though he couldn't see me. "That's wonderful, David. I'm so happy for you." "I wanted you to be the first to know," he said. I felt tears prick my eyes. "Thank you for telling me." "I love you, Mom." "I love you too, sweetheart." After I hung up, I sat on the couch in the dark for a long time. I should have felt happy. I should have felt excited. But all I felt was a strange, hollow ache in my chest. I told myself it was just the fear of letting go. Every mother feels that when her child grows up. But deep down, I knew it was something else. I knew that once Emily became his wife, everything would change. And I was right. The wedding was beautiful. It was held in a small chapel on the edge of town, surrounded by gardens and white roses. Emily wore a stunning gown with lace sleeves. David wore a navy suit and couldn't stop smiling. I sat in the front row, wearing the lavender dress I'd bought months before. I held a tissue in my hand the entire ceremony. When David said, "I do," I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was saying goodbye to something. To the little boy who used to hold my hand. To the young man who used to call me every night. I was watching him begin a new life. And I wasn't going to be at the center of it anymore. After the ceremony, there was a reception at a nearby hall. Music played. People danced. I tried to enjoy myself. I really did. But I felt like a guest in my own son's life. Emily's family was large and loud. Her mother barely spoke to me. Her father shook my hand once and then turned away. I sat at a table near the back, watching David laugh with Emily's cousins, watching him dance with his new wife. He glanced over at me once. Just once. He waved. I waved back. That was the only moment he acknowledged me the entire night. When it was time for speeches, I wasn't asked to say anything. Emily's father spoke. Her maid of honor spoke. Even David's best friend from college spoke. But not me. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself weddings were busy and chaotic. But it hurt. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. After the reception, David came over to say goodbye. They were leaving for their honeymoon the next morning. "Thanks for everything, Mom," he said, hugging me tight. "I love you," I whispered. "I love you too." Emily stood beside him, smiling politely. "It was a lovely day, Margaret." "It was perfect," I said. "You both looked so happy." She nodded. Then she took David's hand. "We should get going. It's late." David kissed my cheek. And then they walked away. I stood there in the parking lot, watching them drive off into the night. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt alone. The first few months after the wedding weren't too bad. David and Emily moved into a new apartment across town. It was modern and sleek, nothing like the cozy little home I'd raised David in. But it was theirs. And I was happy for them. David still called me once or twice a week. We'd chat about work, about life, about little things. But the conversations felt shorter. More distant. Like he was checking a box rather than talking to his mother. I tried not to mind. I try to give them space. Newlyweds need time to adjust, I told myself. They need time to build their life together. But then the invitations stopped. At first, it was subtle. David used to invite me over for Sunday dinners. It was our tradition. But after the wedding, those invitations became less frequent. Once a month. Then once every 2 months. When I did visit, Emily was polite but cold. She'd smile and offer me tea, but she never sat down with us. She'd busy herself in the kitchen or on her laptop. She made it clear I was interrupting. David didn't seem to notice. Or maybe he did, and he just didn't know what to say. One Sunday, I brought over a casserole I'd made. It was David's favorite. Chicken and rice with cheese on top. I'd made it for him since he was a boy. You didn't have to do that, Mom, David said, taking the dish from me. I wanted to, I said. I know how busy you both are. I wanted to, I said. I know how busy you both are. Emily appeared in the doorway. She glanced at the casserole, then at me. That's very thoughtful, Margaret, she said. Her tone was polite, but her eyes were not. We're actually trying to eat healthier these days, she continued. Less carbs. Less dairy. I felt my face flush. Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry. David looked uncomfortable. It's fine, Em. We can have it tonight. Emily smiled tightly. Of course. But I could tell. I could tell she didn't want it. And I could tell she didn't want me there. I stayed for less than an hour that day. I made an excuse about needing to get home. David walked me to the door. Thanks for coming, Mom, he said. Anytime, sweetheart. But as I drove home, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Something was shifting. Something I couldn't control. But as I drove home, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Something was shifting. Something I couldn't control. Then the holidays came. Thanksgiving had always been my favorite. David and I used to spend the entire day together. Cooking, watching old movies, eating until we were too full to move. It was our tradition. But that year, David called me 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. Hey, Mom. So, Emily's family is hosting Thanksgiving this year. We're going to go there. I was quiet for a moment. Oh, okay. You're welcome to come, he added quickly. Her mom said it's fine. But I could hear it in his voice. He was saying it because he felt like he had to. Not because he wanted me there. No, that's okay, I said softly. You should spend it with her family. I'll be fine. Are you sure? I'm sure, sweetheart. Have a wonderful time. After I hung up, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the phone in my hand. Thanksgiving had always been ours. Just the two of us. And now it wasn't. I spent Thanksgiving alone that year. I made a small turkey. I set the table for one. I turned on the television and pretended I wasn't lonely. David sent me a text late that evening. Happy Thanksgiving, Mom. Love you. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. Love you too, sweetheart. But it didn't feel like enough anymore. Christmas was worse. I invited them over for Christmas dinner. I spent days preparing. I decorated the house. I bought gifts. I made all of David's favorite foods. 2 days before Christmas, David called. Mom, I'm really sorry. But Emily's parents want us to spend Christmas with them this year. It's important to her. I felt my heart sink. What about me, David? There was a long pause. I know, Mom. I'm sorry. We'll come visit you the day after. I promise. Okay, I whispered. But he didn't come the day after. He sent me a text saying Emily wasn't feeling well and they needed to stay home. I spent Christmas alone. Again. I sat in the living room, staring at the tree I'd decorated by myself, and I realized something. I was losing him. Not all at once, but slowly, like sand slipping through my fingers. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. The real breaking point came on a cold Tuesday in February. I hadn't seen David in almost 2 months. Every time I called, he was busy. Every time I suggested getting together, he had plans. I tried not to take it personally. I tried to tell myself he was just adjusting to married life. But the truth was I missed him. I missed my son. So I decided to do something I hadn't done before. I decided to drop by their apartment unannounced. I know some people might think that's crossing a line, but he was my son, and I just wanted to see him. Just for a few minutes. I baked some cookies that morning. Chocolate chip. His favorite. I put them in a container and drove across town to their apartment building. My hands were shaking as I knocked on the door. Emily answered. She was wearing yoga pants and a t-shirt. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. When she saw me, her expression didn't change. She didn't smile. She didn't look surprised. She just stared at me. "Margaret," she said flatly. "Hi, Emily. I'm sorry to drop by like this. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd bring David some cookies." She didn't move. She stood in the doorway, blocking my view of the apartment. "He's not home," she said. "Oh, well, maybe I could leave these for him." I held out the container. She didn't take it. "Margaret, can I be honest with you?" My stomach dropped. "Of course." She stepped out into the hallway and closed the door behind her. We were standing face to face now. Her green eyes were sharp and cold. "I think it's time we set some boundaries," she said. I blinked. "Boundaries?" "Yes. You've been very involved in David's life. And I understand. You raised him alone. You're close. But he's married now. He has a wife. He has a life that doesn't revolve around you anymore." Each word felt like a slap. I'm not trying to interfere," I said softly. "I just wanted to see him." "But that's the problem, Margaret. You always want to see him. You call him constantly. You expect him to spend every holiday with you. You drop by unannounced. It's suffocating." I felt tears prick my eyes. I didn't know he felt that way. "He doesn't want to hurt your feelings," Emily said. "But I'm not afraid to be honest. David needs space. We need space. As a couple." I swallowed hard. "Has he said this? Has David told you he feels suffocated?" Emily crossed her arms. "He doesn't have to say it. I can see it. Every time you call, he tenses up. Every time you ask him to visit, he feels guilty. You're making him choose between you and me. And that's not fair." "I would never make him choose," I whispered. "But you are. Just by existing in his life the way you do." The words hung in the air like poison. I stood there, holding the container of cookies, feeling smaller than I'd ever felt in my life. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I didn't mean to be a burden." Emily's expression softened just a fraction. "I'm not saying you're a burden, Margaret. I'm saying you need to give him space. Let him come to you. Stop calling so much. Stop expecting him to be the son he was before he got married." I nodded. I didn't trust myself to speak. "I think it's best if you go now," Emily said. She turned and went back inside. The door closed with a soft click. I stood in that hallway for a long time. I don't know how long. My legs felt weak. My chest felt tight. Finally, I walked back to my car. I set the container of cookies on the passenger seat. And then I sat there in the parking lot and cried. I didn't hear from David for 3 weeks after that. I wanted to call him. I wanted to ask him if what Emily said was true. But I was afraid. I was afraid he'd confirm it. That he'd tell me I was suffocating him. That he didn't want me around anymore. So I stayed silent. I went to work. I came home. I made dinner for one. I watched television. I went to bed. And I did it all over again the next day. My life felt empty. Then one night my phone rang. It was David. "Hi, Mom." My heart leaped. "David." "Hi, sweetheart. I'm sorry I haven't called. Work's been crazy." "That's okay. I understand." There was a pause. I could hear him breathing on the other end. "Emily told me you came by a few weeks ago," he said. My stomach twisted. "Yes. I brought you cookies. I'm sorry if Mom, it's fine. But we need to talk." Those 4 words. We need to talk. Nothing good ever follows them. "Okay," I said quietly. "Emily and I have been talking. And we think it would be good if we had a little more space. Just for a while." I closed my eyes. Space. I closed my eyes. Space. Yeah, it's not that we don't love you. It's just, we're building our life together. And it's hard when there are a lot of outside influences. Outside influences. That's what I was now. I see, I whispered. I'll still call you Mom. I'm not cutting you off. I need you to stop calling me every other day. And maybe we can see each other once a month instead of every week. Once a month. My son wanted to see me once a month. If that's what you need, I said. It is. Thank you for understanding. But I didn't understand. I didn't understand how loving him too much had become a problem. I didn't understand how being his mother had turned me into an outsider. I love you, David, I said. I love you too, Mom. He hung up. I sat in the dark, holding the phone, and I realized something. Emily hadn't just set boundaries. She had built a wall. And David had helped her. I was on the outside now. And I didn't know if I'd ever find my way back in. The months that followed were the loneliest of my life. I kept my promise. I didn't call David every other day anymore. I waited for him to call me. Sometimes he did. Sometimes a week would go by. Then 2 weeks. Then 3. Our conversations became shorter. More polite. Like we were strangers making small talk. How's work, Mom? It's fine, sweetheart. How are you? Good. Busy. Emily says hi. But she never got on the phone. She never said hi herself. I stopped asking him to visit. I stopped suggesting dinners or lunches. I waited for him to invite me. But the invitations never came. I spent my weekends alone. I joined a book club at the library just to have something to do. I started volunteering at a food bank on Saturdays. I filled my time with anything that would keep me from thinking about how much I missed my son. But at night, when the house was quiet, the loneliness crept back in. I'd sit in the kitchen where David and I used to have breakfast together. I'd look at his old school photos on the wall. I'd remember the sound of his laughter, the way he used to hug me before bed, the way he used to tell me everything. And I'd wonder where I went wrong. Then one day in late spring, my phone rang. It was David. Mom, I have some news. His voice sounded different. Excited. Happy. What is it? Emily's pregnant. We're having a baby. For a moment, I couldn't speak. A baby. My grandchild. Mom? Are you there? Yes, I said, my voice cracking. I'm here. That's wonderful, David. Congratulations. Thanks, Mom. We just found out yesterday. We're really excited. I'm so happy for you both. And I was. Truly. But underneath the happiness was something else. Fear. Fear that I wouldn't be allowed to be part of this child's life either. Fear that I wouldn't be allowed to be part of this child's life either. I'll let you know when we find out if it's a boy or a girl, David said. Please do. Love you, Mom. Love you too. After I hung up, I sat down at the kitchen table and put my head in my hands. I should have felt joy. I should have felt excitement. But all I felt was a deep, aching sadness. Because I knew Emily wouldn't want me around. I knew I'd be kept at a distance from my own grandchild, just like I'd been kept at a distance from my son. The baby was born in December. A little girl. They named her Sophie. David called me from the hospital. She's here, Mom. She's perfect. I'm so happy for you, I said, tears streaming down my face. Can I come see her? There was a pause. Emily's pretty tired right now. Maybe in a few days. Of course. Whatever works best. A few days turned into a week. A week turned into 2. Finally, 3 weeks after Sophie was born, David invited me over. I bought a little pink dress and a stuffed rabbit. I drove to their apartment with my heart pounding. I was finally going to meet my granddaughter. Emily answered the door. She looked exhausted. Her hair was messy. She had dark circles under her eyes. Hi, Margaret, she said quietly. Hi. How are you feeling? Tired. But okay. She led me inside. David was sitting on the couch, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a white blanket. When he saw me, he smiled. Come meet Sophie. I walked over slowly. And then I saw her. My granddaughter. She had David's dark hair and tiny little fingers. She was sleeping peacefully in his arms. She's beautiful, I whispered. Want to hold her? David asked. I nodded. He carefully placed her in my arms. She was so light, so fragile. I looked down at her little face and felt my heart break open. This was my son's daughter, my flesh and blood. I held her for maybe 5 minutes. Then Emily spoke up. We should probably let her sleep, she said. David reached out. I handed Sophie back to him. And just like that, the moment was over. I stayed for less than half an hour. Emily didn't offer me tea. She didn't ask me to sit. She stood near the door the entire time, arms crossed, like she was waiting for me to leave. So I did. Thank you for letting me meet her, I said softly. Of course, David said. We'll have you over again soon. But I knew he didn't mean it. I drove home in silence. And when I got inside my empty house, I sat down on the floor and cried. I cried for the son I'd lost. I cried for the daughter-in-law who hated me. I cried for the granddaughter I'd barely gotten to hold. Over the next few months, I saw Sophie 3 more times. Each visit was short. Each visit felt forced. Emily barely spoke to me. David was polite but distant. I sent gifts. I sent cards. I texted David asking how Sophie was doing. His responses were always brief. She's good. Growing fast. Sleeping better now. That was it. No photos. No invitations. No updates unless I asked. I felt like a stranger in my own family. I felt like a stranger in my own family. One night, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and I had a thought that terrified me. What if Sophie grows up not knowing who I am? What if I become just a name to her? A woman who sends birthday cards but never shows up? What if Emily erases me from her life the same way she erased me from David's? I couldn't let that happen. So I made a decision. I decided to write a letter. Not to David. Not to Emily. But to Sophie. So I made a decision. I decided to write a letter. Not to David. Not to Emily. But to Sophie. A letter she could read one day when she was older. A letter that would tell her who I was. A letter that would tell her how much I loved her, even if I wasn't allowed to show it. I sat down at my kitchen table with a pen and paper. And I began to write. Dear Sophie, my sweet granddaughter. Dear Sophie, my sweet granddaughter. By the time you read this, you'll be old enough to understand. Old enough to know that love doesn't always look the way we expect it to. I'm your grandmother. Your father's mother. And I want you to know that from the moment you were born, I loved you with every piece of my heart. I may not have been there for every birthday. I may not have been at every school play or every holiday dinner. But that was never because I didn't want to be. It was because sometimes life puts distance between people who love each other. Sometimes that distance isn't our choice. Your father is a good man. He's kind and gentle and smart. I raised him the best way I knew how. And I'm so proud of the man he became. I'm proud that he chose your mother. I'm proud that he chose to build a family. Even if that family didn't have much room for me. I don't blame him. I don't blame your mother either. People protect what they love. And your mother loves your father very much. She wanted to build a life with him that was theirs alone. I understand that now. But I hope one day you'll want to know me. I hope one day you'll ask about the grandmother who loved you from a distance. And if that day comes, I'll be here. I'll always be here. I'll tell you stories about your father when he was a little boy. I'll tell you how he used to help me bake cookies every Sunday. I'll tell you how he used to read books under the covers with a flashlight long after bedtime. I'll tell you how he held my hand at his father's funeral and promised me we'd be okay. And we were. For a long time, we were. Life changes, sweetheart. People grow. Families shift. That's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it just is. I hope you grow up surrounded by love. I hope you grow up knowing you're precious. I hope you grow up strong and kind and brave. And I hope, one day, you'll forgive me for not being there the way I wanted to be. I love you, Sophie. I always will. Your grandmother, Margaret. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in an envelope. I wrote Sophie's name on the front. Then I put it in a box along with photos of David as a child, his old report cards, drawings he made me, and the recipe for the chocolate chip cookies he used to love. One day, I'd give this box to her. Maybe when she turned 18. Maybe when she had questions. Maybe when she needed to know where she came from. Until then, I'd keep it safe. I don't talk to David much anymore. He calls me on my birthday. He sends me a card on Mother's Day. And sometimes, late at night, he'll send me a photo of Sophie. She's 3 years old now. She has his smile. I keep every photo he sends. I print them out and put them in a frame on my dresser. I've learned to live with the distance. I've learned to live with the silence. It still hurts. Some days more than others. But I've learned that loving someone doesn't always mean being close to them. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes it means stepping back so they can live the life they need to live. Even if that life doesn't include you the way you hoped. I don't regret the years I spent raising David. I don't regret the sacrifices I made. He was worth every sleepless night, every aching back, every missed opportunity. He was my son. He still is. And even though I've lost him in so many ways, I'll never stop loving him. That's what mothers do. We love. Even when it hurts. Even when we're forgotten. Even when we're pushed aside. We love anyway. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that has to be enough. Because at the end of the day, I gave him everything I had. I gave him a life. I gave him a future. And now he's living it. Even if I'm not part of it anymore. Thank you for listening to my story. Now I want to ask you something. What would you do if you were in my place? If your own child slowly drifted away from you, would you fight to stay close, or would you let them go? I would love to hear your thoughts, so please share them with me in the comments below. I'm always curious about what you all think, and also tell me where you heard this story. If stories like this touch your heart, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. There are many more real-life stories waiting for you. Stories of love, loss, forgiveness, and hope. With heartfelt greetings, until next time.